What did you find out about your friend's sex life that actually shocked you? A former friend of mine used to wipe her husband's butt after he'd been to the bathroom. Initially she'd do his washing and he'd leave stains on his underwear. For her? I'm not sure. And that progressed to some humiliation and her checking him when he got home from work every day. She told me this when we were outside having a cigarette and I then had to sit across from them both for the longest game of Monopoly. Well, I just found out my girlfriend's a lesbian, so that's kinda f-king with me. Edit. Thank you all for the support. And the laughs. It sucks. We've been together for a long time. Built a bit of a life together. Been through thick and thin. She claims it's just a mistake. But she's emotionally and physically involved with another woman. And has been cheating on me as well as financially supporting the homewrecker with money we discussed saving for a wedding. I hope she finds what she's looking for. Because it's not gonna be with me anymore. I've given all that I could. My best friend in college got in a pretty kinky SL relationship with this dude for a while. They do BDSM type stuff, none of which is particularly shocking to me, but I remember visiting her apartment and seeing a spoon out randomly in her room and asked why it was there. She said she loved the taste of his cum so much he'd jerk off onto the spoon and feed it to her while she was tied up. I didn't think she'd ever really shock me, but that one took the cake. Wait until they find out you can come directly into a person's mouth. Doing it onto a spoon seems inconvenient. Edit. Guys, it was a joke. My sister's involvement. Wait until you find about your mom's. My so's boss's husband would call up various guys, sometimes police officer friends, etc. To FCK his wife at her work while she left the phone on speaker so he could hear. That's all he wanted, was to hear hormones, I guess. It was interesting realizing this otherwise seemingly normal husband and wife with children had this phone cuckold fetish. Well, the husband at least. My girlfriend in HS was friends with this girl who was super quiet. And pretty nerdy. Totally innocent in every sense of the word. When she was like 12 or so, her mom got remarried to this dude who had a son around her age. Well, at around 16 or so, my HS girlfriend finally got stone drunk with me one night and told me that this girl didn't want to lose her virginity. So her and her stepbrother had been doing NL regularly for months. All I remember was being like, the FCK, and then going home and masturbating furiously to the idea of it. That a couple friends of mine had a monogamous SL relationship. They were brother and sister. See? The first sentence had me like, oh thank FCK, some kinda wholesome stuff. And then the banjo started playing. Well, I found out he likes hosting gangbangs. He invited me to one. 2. Update. I went. I mustn't talk about it. From what I hear, gangbangs are a bunch of dudes beside each other jerking off, except you get to slide in for 2 seconds. A friend co-worker was caught with BDMS kiddie PRN. I did my first hit of acid with him. Makes me wonder if we ever truly know someone. Back in 2014 I found out the group I was hanging with were into convincing teenagers from Instagram to meet up and then drugging and ARPing them. I knew they were chauvinist jerks, but that was a shock. My friend had an LSX with her boyfriend for 5 years before having vaginal sex. She was too scared she would get pregnant. I have nothing against an LSX, but it totally shocked the hell out of me. I married at 19 and moves across the country. My best friend at the time of my wedding was still a virgin. 2 years later, during conversation on the phone, she tells me she took part in a sex train during a party and ended up f***ing my married brother too. I don't judge her. But it did shock me because she was always very reserved through high school. That he was having sex with my fiance registered sign. Found out half of my friend group were regularly having foursomes together and rudely not inviting the rest of us. This guy looked and acted like your typical alpha male but was actually a virgin. I think because he was overly confident to the point of being a douchebag that turned women away. Johnny Bravo. That she lets her girlfriend sleep with other people, but it's not an open relationship both ways. I guess if that was a straight relationship it'd be like a hot wife cuckold setup. Her girlfriend's manipulative and she's often upset, not surprisingly. Well, this doesn't sound abusive at all. That they eat ass despite being a germaphobe. Ding. I have a galpal who is mega OCD. Hyper clean and otherworldly germophobic, and she is way into some balloon knot bingo. In the battle of kink v. bacteria. Kink is the victor. Always. My best friend married his high school sweetheart. I knew they were both virgins when they got married. What I did not know, and only found out when they eventually got divorced, was that they only had sex about 20 times during their 10-year marriage. The wife evidently got zero enjoyment from sex, and only did it when she wanted to get pregnant. They had 3 kids, and all happened relatively easily quickly. He was not allowed by her to masturbate or look at PRN, although he did behind her back. This had nothing to do with religion or anything like that. Just how she personally viewed sex. My friend, who didn't really know any better, just assumed that's what marriage was supposed to be like. He's now remarried to an incredible woman who evidently loves sex and has been more than willing to make up for all the time my friend was in an essentially S-less relationship. I've never seen him so happy. Not really shocking. But one of my friends started dating a guy a few years ago, and their entire sex life so far sounds like one big 18+ episode of Mr. Bean. Every time I meet her, all I hear is stories about them falling off the bed, tipping bottles of juice over themselves, jizz ending up in one of their eyes, bizarre injuries in unfortunate areas, lube mishaps. Also, they aren't a pair of drunks, even though it really sounds like it. I don't want to go too specific, but their sex life just sounds like a disaster, and she doesn't seem to enjoy it at all. I was housemates with a good friend of mine for several years. I found one of his shirts in my laundry one day, so I decided to fold it up and put it away for him. I opened a drawer that I assumed would contain shirts, and half of it was full of adult-size baby diapers. Took me weeks to ask him about what I saw, but I just had to because I couldn't unsee it. He was forthcoming about his kink, but it was weird since he was a really straight-laced kind of guy. He got the last laugh when my brother inadvertently brought me Noro for Christmas, and I just couldn't stop shitting myself. He left one on my bed while I was in the bathroom with a note that said, "A one size fits all." Edit. Noro means norovirus. People tend to get it on airplanes, and it's a dumpster fire of an illness. Wash your hands. I discovered that my friend's eyes cross when he ejaculates. Best friend in HS was casually seeing this dude who was a senior our sophomore year. Well, he graduated and dumped her. Next year his brother started HS. She proceeded to date him. Took both of their virginities. Achievement unlocked. Eskimo brothers. Edit. Yes. Tunnel buddies. EBDB. 2 of my friends used to date, and due to martinis and cider, I now know exactly how big he is and how long she can hold her breath. One friend had sex with another friend. Because his dick CGI has aged surprisingly well and it once regurgitated John Voight. My friend, who says H word instead of horny because she cannot say it, has her nipples pierced. He posts himself and his girlfriend to Pornhub and Reddit NSFW. He slept with a clown. You want to see a magic trick? I can make this penis disappear. My roommate broke his bed one day after coming home with his girlfriend. Pretty ordinary so far. That happens, although already quite funny. Then I remembered that I helped him build his bed up when we moved in. Dude's bed has 2 slatted frames. My best bud of 20+ years recently came out as gay. He had a bit of a weight problem, so was constantly single. Like a good friend, I hooked him up with girls a couple times and watched as their relationship went nowhere. I always felt guilty for having a great wife. Now after 20 years, realizing all my effort to get him laid were going toward the wrong f-king gender. Also not just gay, but like bespoke leather puppy mask gay. Rolled a 1 on that perception check. Was hanging out with my boyfriend and our friends, who are also a couple. We were having breakfast smoothies. They casually mentioned that they're going to an orgy in Brooklyn on Saturday and it's a really progressive orgy because all men need to be invited by a woman. I'm like, wow. That's a really interesting system. Internally I'm like, you guys go to orgies? Edit. I just wanna say that you guys are losing it over the word progressive since apparently that's how all orgies are. This was like 6 months ago. I'm not quoting her adjective for adjective. That was just my takeaway about that rule she described to us. After several years I found out that one of my female friends wore a strap-on and defked her husband up the butt almost every time they had sex. I don't remember how the topic even came up. But apparently that was just how he liked it and she was happy to oblige. He said that when he was 20 he did try it with another man but didn't really find any enjoyment in it because he likes playing with tits while getting plowed. So he only likes it when it's coming from a woman wearing a strap-on. That she had elaborate pirate roleplay sex. We were housemates in college and I heard way more than I be gained for. Also the guy she had elaborate pirate roleplay sex with smelled bad and wore those shoes with the separate toes. And wore those shoes with the separate toes. A friend of mine thinks of me while having sex so they can keep going for much longer. I knew this guy. Lived with a friend of mine. Then one day I saw him on the local news's version of To Catch a Predator. I think he got some time and might have been deported after that. That was quite a surprise. My wife had a female friend in high school that saved all the used condoms in a brown paper bag under her bed. And from what I heard, there were a lot of them. Can't that team old or go rotten?